بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض روحي وأرواحنا الفداء ولعن الله وأعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلاة على محمد وعلى I need a better salawat than that, please, inshallah. Thank you. Our discussion yesterday was talking a little bit about the philosophies of calamities in Islam. And I want to segue into our discussion tonight by discussing the atmosphere in which Bibi Zaynab gave her famous khutbah in the courtyard of Yazid. It's a historic khutbah, it's a monumental khutbah. And in order for us to understand the adamat and the respect that's due for this khutbah, we must understand in what mahal and in what environment she stood there and she addressed the men of that courtyard. You see, history tells us, and I want my youth to understand this, Sham as we know it today was not the Sham of the time of Bibi Zaynab. Sham today is Syria or Damascus. If you do the research, it's a very interesting story. And I'll be very quick, I know history is dry, and then we'll segue towards our topic using this piece of history. Sham was known as Al-Shamat back in the day. It consisted of 4 different countries: Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, and of course Syria. This was known as Sham, or Greater Syria, as it was known in the books. It's a large area. Our Holy Prophet, up until the last year of his life, was able to conquer the Arabian Peninsula only. He wasn't able to get to outside the peninsula. That happened and began in the first Khalifa's time. So there was a futuhat, there was a conquest of Islam that had spread all the way out until Sham. The first Khalifa realized that Sham is a very important piece of history and piece of land. And so he sent 3 different armies to go out and conquer Sham. 2 of the 3 armies were led by Yazid ibn Abu Sufyan and Muawiya ibn Abu Sufyan. They went out and they conquered Sham. Yazid, the son of Abu Sufyan, the brother of Muawiya, became the governor of Jordan, and Muawiya became the governor of Iraq. When Yazid passed away in 18th Hijri, Muawiya was now given the governorship of both Jordan and of Iraq. And eventually the second Khalifa came, promoted him to be the governor of the entire area of Sham. And he was a governor from 18th Hijri up until 60th Hijri. Muawiya led that area in Sham. Now, what's interesting to note is that Sham belonged to the Roman Empire. Meaning what? They were mostly Christians. When these 3 armies arrived in Sham, these individuals didn't know much about Islam. Yes, they heard about this guy named Muhammad in Medina, Mecca, talking about Islam. They've never seen our Holy Prophet. They never went to Mecca. They didn't have any exposure to Islam. The only exposure they had to Islam was to the teachings of Muawiya ibn Abu Sufyan. Why is that key? To understand the kayfiyat and the halat and the state of the Shamis during that time. We often wonder, how is it possible that they watched the Ahl Haram enter the bazaar and the darbar and they were quiet? How is it possible that they threw rocks at the Ahl Haram? We wonder, were they not Muslims? They were Muslims, but they were taught by Muawiya their Islam. What level of deen must you have if the son of Abu Sufyan is teaching you the deen of Muhammad? So this happens, and this conquer happens. He becomes a governor of Sham. Amir al-Mu'mineen becomes the Khalifa Zahiri, and the first thing he does is attempt now to replace Muawiya in Sham, which of course initiates the war of Siffin. And the entire time that he is the governor of Sham, Muawiya does one thing beautifully. The propaganda that he does against the Ahlul Bayt was so effective that, as many of you know, when the news of the Shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen came about, people were shocked that Ali was in the masjid. They couldn't connect Ali and the masjid because there was so much propaganda done that the Ahlul Bayt have nothing to do with Muhammad and Islam. They are, na'udhu billah, they are majnoon, they are lunatics, they are delusional, or they are sahirs, they are magicians. Don't go near them. They'll make circles around you, confuse you, and then bring you back. And he used that propaganda to ensure that the Shamis, the Syrians, were in the palm of his hand. He had immense brainwashing capacity, Muawiya did, to the point where he would recite Salatul Jum'ah on Wednesday, and not one person would question that. Because Muawiya said so. And he was so concerned, and this is very, very key now. I'm going quickly through history. He was so concerned after his death that in his wasiyah, in his will, he writes to his son Yazid that, look, one thing you have to do, if you find an uprising outside of Sham, anywhere in the Muslim empire, send the Syrian troops to go fix that uprising and get those troops back to Syria again. Why is the question? The wasiyah goes on to say that he was fearful that the Syrian individuals would go to these other countries, reside in that countries, and realize that the Islam that I find in the Arabian Peninsula has nothing to do with the Islam that Muawiya has taught us. And God forbid they revolt and uprise against Muawiya. That you taught us not Islam in Nab or Islam in Khalis, you taught us Islam al-Sufyani, for example. And then if it wasn't bad enough that he became the governor of Sham, after the Sulh of Imam Hussain, he became the Khalifa inside the Muslim world. Who was Muawiya, guys? The son of that man who was a thorn on the side of our Holy Prophet, his arch enemy. Every attempt the Holy Prophet made to succeed, he was there, Abu Sufyan, to block that path. Economic sanctions, social sanctions, Shibbe Abu Talib, war after war after war, all of it was triggered by Abu Sufyan. His son Muawiya is now the Khalifa of that Muslim empire. And the Ummah stood there and watched this happen. Because you know, the same old Abu Sufyan, when Sakhifa happened, he went to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Abu Sufyan did, as many of you know. He said, Ali, this Khilafat belongs to the Bani Hashim. You know that it's not their Khilafat. And if you want, I can supply to you army after army to bring back your Khilafat. Just say the word, and I'm there. Because he realized that the sons of Abu Sufyan had nothing to do with Sakhifa. They had no possibility of becoming Khalifa. So let's do what we can to ruin the deen internally by offering all the tools for a civil war. Instead, what did he do? He held on to Sham The moment Ali says to Muawiya that you're going to be replaced, he says, I will go to war, Ali, with you. I will not give up Sham. Sham is my baby now. I've worked for decades to bring these people to follow me unconditionally. So now when the sulh with Imam Hussain is over and Muawiya breaks that treaty and assigns Yazid as a Khalifa, which is against the treaty itself. You know that one of the clauses in the treaty was what? That the moment your Khilafat is done, you give it back to the Ahlul Bayt. Muawiya broke that and said, no, I'll make my son Yazid the Khalifa. It's at that moment Imam Hussain said, now it's time for me to rise up against this Khalifa. For 10 years, from 50 to 60 Hijri, when Imam Hussain was gone, Imam Hussain was there. Muawiya was a Khalifa. Imam Hussain kept quiet out of respect for the brothers' sulh. But the moment he broke that treaty, Imam Hussain said, no, now it's on. Let's rise up now. And that situation, this is where we get to our segue. The situation that Imam Hussain adopted at 61st Hijri, the Muslim Ummah were two different groups of people. On one side, he saw the Muslim Ummah that was all too familiar with the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, knew exactly what happened in Ghadir, knew about the Ahlul Bayt, but somehow allowed someone like Muawiya to become their Khalifa. They were dormant, they were indifferent, they were asleep, they were not interested. There was indifference on one side of the Ummah. On the other side in Sham, there was complete ignorance. They actually believed that the Islam that Muawiya presented was the actual Islam that came to our Holy Prophet. They didn't know any better. So on one side where you have indifference, on the other side you had ignorance. Follow me for a second, please. And Imam Hussain knew, and this is not any riwayat or hadith, this is an analysis of an alim in Qum. I'm simply repeating to you. He saw that these two situations existed, of indifference and ignorance, and he realized that the indifference group needed what's called bedari, and the ignorance needed agahi. Follow me for a second. The indifference one needed an awakening, the ignorance one needed an awareness. Understand that analysis, please. Imam Hussain is there, 61st Hijri. It's been announced that Yazid is a Khalifa. Now he goes to rise up. After he rises up, he realizes that I'm dealing with two separate groups of people now. People who sat there and allowed the son of Abu Sufyan to become the Khalifa of my grandfather, who are completely dormant, who sit there and are indifferent, going along with the tide, no sort of cause of concern. Then there are those who don't know any better. They're ignorant. One needed awakening, one needed awareness. Where does Bibi Zaynab's khutbah come into play? He knows that through his own shahadat, I can create an awakening. But I need a second person to create that awareness. My shahadat will not reach the darbar of Sham. My shahadat might awaken the masses when news spreads that the Nawasa of Rasulullah was killed the way he was killed. But I need somebody from me to be in that courtyard to awaken and to make aware the people of Sham that this Islam that you've been accustomed to for 42 years has nothing to do with Islam and Muhammadi whatsoever. That's why the first thing he did, Imam Sajjad, is say what? This adhan that is going on, this Muhammad is your grandfather or is my grandfather? Where's the segue? Let's come to today. The Muslim Ummah hasn't changed, unfortunately. Even today, the Muslim Ummah can be broken down to two different groups. One group that requires awakening and one group that requires awareness. One group requires bidari, one group requires agahi. The bidari, the awakening happening in the East is happening, let that happen. What our role here in the West is not to awaken anybody, it's to make aware everybody of the mission of Imam Hussain. And on that side of the world, through the blood of the Shohada of Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, there is an awakening happening. albeit at a very, very tough price, where our Shias are being killed by a genocide, flat out, in the middle of the daytime, being shot in the head 5 times because you are a lover of Ali, is an awakening at the cost of the blood of the Shuhada. But in this day and age, here in the West, you and I don't need to shed our blood. Because we have a jihad bil sayf, we have a jihad bil lisan, a jihad bil akhlaq, a jihad bil qalam. All these different wars that we can fight here are wars of intellect, are wars of akhlaq, are wars of our pen. We need to make the masses aware of the fact that what Imam Hussain did was not reserved for some random day of Ashura on the 61st of Hijri. The point that Moulana made yesterday was a very beautiful one, by the way. The fact that Hussein, you called out Hal min Nasirin, I will bring the Azadars forward. It's a beautiful point he made, mashallah. May Allah bless him, inshallah. And that awareness starts from us, from internally. It's an inside-out process. Until we understand and are aware of what Imam Hussein's mission is, we can't go out and propagate that mission to ourselves. I was very, very happy last night when I saw so many people here on a Saturday after Ashura. And I'm equally more happy I see so many youth tonight here. Even though there's a big game of football going on, Denver and New England. But inshallah, that starts 8:30. I'll get you home before then, inshallah. One salat ala Muhammad wa ala Now, the challenge of coming for 2 days to a city like I've come to Astana for 2 days, you can't really get into a topic in 2 days. You know, you kind of scratch the surface and you end up leaving. I'm flying out tomorrow morning. I want to thank Astaana-e-Zehra. I want to thank my humble host who hosted me very hospitably, and all of you for your support. Inshallah, we'll meet soon in the future, inshallah, for a longer time than 2 days, so at least I have some room to work with a topic, inshallah. There's a lot to say tonight. I only have half an hour left. Stay with me, inshallah. We'll go from there. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The one point that Imam Hussain did, and I want my youth to understand this. I want my youth to understand every point. One thing is this: Imam Hussain, time and time again, every stop he made, he would give a khutbah and explain to the masses, I'm not going towards Karbala and Kufa for any other reason but to save my Nana's deen. That's it. He said it, and then he gave his blood in the way of it as well. Meaning he walked the walk and he talked the talk. He didn't say La ilaha illallah and not attach amal to it. Allahu Akbar. He doesn't say that, look, I have iman, but the embodiment of my iman being amal is stripped from me. Where he says, look, if you need to go and sacrifice your body for the deen of Islam, then go ahead and do it. If he said that and didn't sacrifice, it had no asr on it in the amal. Time and time again he would say, if the deen of Islam requires me to be killed to be saved, then bring on the arrows, one by one. Where he established his iman, he also showed it with action as well. One point I want to make here, because I've been told by some youth today that, you know, there's a movement happening, unfortunately. Sometimes, you know, speakers come here and they say a few things and we need to come out and put out those fires. If any speaker, or anybody for that matter, comes and attempts to display Islam to be nothing but faith and faith alone, that as long as you believe in Allah, you're okay. As long as you say La ilaha illallah, you're okay. As long as you believe in the Holy Prophet, you're okay. Amal is not a requirement for the pleasure of Allah. Then please be very careful of those kind of words. Everything we have is what we do, not what we say. The Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, lima taqulu wa ma la taf'alun. Why do you say what you don't do? The ayat is not for everybody. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. It's for you all, mashallah. We say La ilaha illallah the moment that amal comes about. Well, I believe. I don't need to act. It's a Christian way of looking at the deen. The Christians have stripped the amal and have remained to be faithful and faithful alone. You can say what you want, do what you want, provided that on Sunday, you're there, you're saying Jesus Christ, hallelujah, everything is good. Monday morning, you start fresh, and then until next Sunday. Or you come to confessional, you stand there, there's a window there, on one side is a priest, on one side is you. Father, I have sinned, please forgive me. That guy who's more sinful than you are is now forgiving you and saying, my son, you've been blessed, you've been forgiven. Go on Monday morning, you start fresh. Wow, now you start fresh, clean plate. Until next Sunday. If you think that's what Islam is, Allahu Akbar. The Holy Prophet says this, 3 things follow the mayyat to the qabristan. Ahluhu, maluhu, wa amaluhu. Your family, your mal, and your amal. 2 of them return, 1 remains in the qabristan. Your ahl and your mal return, your amal remains with you inside your graveyard. Don't think for a moment we believe that, oh, my grave has serpents and snakes. No, your grave is empty, Baba. There's nothing in your grave. What you take from this world is what will be in your grave when you go, inshallah. If you take Jannah, Jannah will be there, inshallah. If you take serpents and snakes, then serpents and snakes will accompany you in your grave. Your amal defines your grave, nothing else. So please do not fall into the trap of these people who say what they want to say. You know, they have these lyrics in these songs nowadays, right? That I want to eat your children, I want to shoot you dead, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then when they have the reward, they say, oh, I thank Jesus for everything that I've earned. These hip-hop artists. Have you heard their songs? Hopefully not, but their lyrics are horrible. They're talking about killing and drugs and stealing and all that. And then when they're awarded for the best song of the year, the first person they thank is Jesus Christ. And Jesus is like, please, man, don't thank me, brother. I have nothing to do with you whatsoever. Keep me away from this, please. You can't say one thing and then claim to love me. You want to love me? You follow my path. In kuntum tuhibbuna Allah, fattabi'uni yuhibbukum Allah. You claim to love Allah? Follow the Holy Prophet. When you follow the Holy Prophet, you become a mahbub of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And this idea of matching your actions with your words is not new to anybody. Every relationship between a lover and a beloved is just like that. You can claim to love your wife all you want. Honey, I love you. Sweetie, I love you. Honey, I love you. She'll get happy the first 3, 4, 5 times. But when she's asking you to pick up your clothes, hang your clothes, handle the dishes, vacuum once in a while, cook some khatti dal, all these things she's asking you to do, and you don't do it, you can say, I love you 1,000 times. She'll say, take your love and go home with it. I don't want your love anymore. If that love is not with action, that love is useless to me whatsoever. Allah is the exact same way. La ilaha illallah is one thing. To fall down to such a 3 o'clock in the morning in this New Jersey winter is another thing altogether. My brothers and my sisters, we are nothing and we'll get nowhere without amal. Salat, Saum, Khums, Jihad is what defines our iman. Please do not let anybody else come and tell you that Islam is so easy. You simply say, I believe Jesus, and you're in heaven. I wish it were that simple. It's not. It wasn't my topic, but it's something I had to say. Sallu ala Muhammad. Now, back to our topic. I want my youth to understand that yesterday I tried to paint this picture, that problems and struggles in life are an avenue for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ayat I read for you yesterday and that I read for you today from Surah Balad says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We created the human being in the cradle of sakhtiya and problems and mushkilat. The ones who attain the pleasure of Allah are the ones who have passed that test. Now, one point I want to make here, I mentioned this yesterday, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places that test in front of us, and then He gives us the capacity to handle that test. Sometimes our youth believe that, look, Sayyid, you know, he made me go through this and I don't have the strength to go through it. Impossible. لا تكلف النفس إلا وسعها. Allah does not place any mushkil in front of a nafs except for giving him the capacity to handle that nafs. It's up to you and I now to find that capacity inside of us. How many times have you said, I can't believe I went through that, I got through it, but I did. And I'm a stronger person because of it. So point number one, Allah never places a problem or a struggle in front of you without giving you the strength to deal with that problem. Otherwise, Allah is unjust. Point number two, Allah has created something inside of us called the fitrat. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ. Beautiful ayat. Stand up and face towards the deen hanif, that pure deen. Allah's fitrat was used to create the fitrat of the insan. Now, to understand the fitrat and how this works, I'll give you an example. Now, last night I used Zayn's hair as an example, which was a big mistake. It's been trending worldwide on Twitter ever since I used that. It's not a good example. The example I'll use today is that of an operating system. Now, I will reveal to you just how old I am by telling you that today, day and age, if you were to buy a computer, a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone, it comes preloaded with an operating system. Correct? If you have an iPhone, you have an iOS, let's say, for example. There used to be a time way back when I used to buy computers, you would turn on the tower and there would be a blank screen and a flashing cursor. You would have to choose your operating system and grab a 3.5-inch floppy disk, which you guys have no idea what that is. You're asking the guy beside you, what's a floppy disk? It's a 3.5, and you would put it in and you would choose a DOS-based system or a Windows-based system. You choose your operating system. And then you would load it accordingly. Okay? In this day and age, there's already a preloaded operating system in your system already. If you brought home an iPad, you turn it on, and there's nothing there, you return it, say there's no operating system in this tablet whatsoever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equally has created us with our own operating system preloaded already. The operating system of Tawheed. That's already inside of our system. We were brought into this world, we were turned on, and ta-da, Tawheed was there. The beauty of this example, let's go one step further. Once in a while, Apple does what? Apple sends updates to all of you. Allahu Akbar. That once in a while now, it's important that you update your operating system. See, if I was an Urdu alim, I'd say, hi, majma ka hai hamara. I don't know where you guys are right now. Follow me for a second, please. I don't want nadis, but a little bit of tawajjuh, inshallah. Every so once in a while, like recently, Apple sends out iOS 7.0. I hate the update, I don't like it, but I was forced to update it. Okay? Meaning what? That what you had before, the operating system you had before is outdated. Now to keep up with the current times, you have to update your operating system. Otherwise, your apps from before will not work. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us that operating system, but He said, I'm not going to send the updates. You send the updates to yourself once in a while to figure out, do my apps still work or my apps don't work? Do I need an update or don't I need an update? When's the last time we updated our operating system of Tawheed? What version do we have? Windows 95? iOS 5.0? Ask yourself, I'm dead serious. What version of OS do you have inside of you of Tawheed? That same Tawheed from Pakistan, India? That same Tawheed when you were 8, 9 years old? Or have we done any refreshing, any updating, any calculation? Because we've been built with the fitrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now when we deal with a problem or a calamity or a struggle, we simply need to resort back to the OS. What does the OS say? And just spit out the output. That's all we have to do. No one's asking you to go above and beyond that. The problem lies in the fact that our OS has become outdated. And we haven't updated our OS. Because we fall into the trap of ghaflat. Ghaflat is a very dangerous, nasty disease we have. What's ghaflat? You're sitting here in the majlis, this guy is reading amazing, man. He's from Toronto, call him again next year, inshallah. And I'm going to change myself from this day forward, this and that. You get to your car in the parking lot, you open the door, and you forgot everything that was said in the majlis. Everything. That's how we are. We're ghafil human beings. part of the problem that we all have. It's because when it comes to our struggles and problems, we don't resort back to Allah for the solution. We ask the creation for the solution, not the creator for the solution. The example I'll give you is this. Namaz al-Ghufayla is a beautiful salat. One that I recommend my youth tonight, if you can, to Google it, look it up. It's a very powerful salat between Maghrib and Isha. Now, Ghufayla comes from Ghafla. Follow me for a second. You guys all with me, inshallah? आप लोग हैं हमारे साथ, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad. I'm warming up the crowd for Moulana Jafri to come, inshallah, and do his thing, so stay with me, inshallah. Now, what is the danger of ghaflat? Follow me for a second. Very beautiful ayat, Surah Al-Araf, ayat number 179, talks about the danger of ghaflat. Surah Al-Araf, ayat number 179, describes those individuals, can you imagine this for a second? Those individuals that Allah uses as motivation to create the hellfire. Allahu Akbar. It's one thing where you're bound for the hellfire. It's one thing where Allah looks at you and says, yeah, I'm going to create the hellfire because of people like you. And that ayat describes three qualities of that individual. لَقَدْ ذَرَعْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. From the people who are in the hellfire of the jinn and the ins. لهم قلوبا لا يفقهون بها ولهم أعين لا يبصرون بها ولهم آذان لا يسمعون بها أولئك كالأنعام بل هم أضل أولئك هم الغافلون. These are people who had hearts, they never understood anything. They had eyes, they never saw anything. To look at one thing is one thing, to see something is another. وَلَهُمْ أَذَانًا لَا يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا. They had ears, they never heard anything. أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ. They are like cattle, they're animals, going from here, going from there, going from here, going from there. بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلْ. They're worse than animals, they are amongst the ghafilin. Look at the level that he paints a picture of and says that all of that is one side, the ghafilin are another. So ghaflat is a serious problem that we have. How do we fight that ghaflat? One of the ways is this Salat al-Ghufayla. Ghufayla actually comes from ghafala, to fight ghaflat. It's interesting, my youth especially, it's interesting to note that this salat is prescribed for us before the namaz of Isha. They say that ghaflat comes at its extreme point at night. Ask my youth. 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you are one person. 12 o'clock at midnight, you're a completely different cat altogether. A conversation you have at noon with somebody and a talk you have at midnight with somebody are two different talks. The arena of shaitan all of a sudden opens its doors at night. The majority of our sins happen at night. We forget Allah at night. As so long as the sun is up, we're okay. The moment the sun begins to set, I don't know what happens to us. Allah begins to slowly fade away out of our system and shaitan makes his way inside. And the Ahlul Bayt recognizes this and says to save yourself from this, Salat al-Ghufayla is there to protect you from this ghaflat. In Salat al-Ghufayla, in the very first rakat after Alhamd, we're asked to remember the story of Nabi Yunus. وَظَنُونِي ذَهَبَ مَغَاضِبًا فَظَنَّ أَنْ لَن نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ فَنَادَى فِي ظُلُمَاتٍ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. What's the story of Nabi Yunus? Very quickly. He was the prophet that spent time in the belly of the mammal. He did a tarki ola. He chose the lesser of the good. Allah, to teach him a lesson, brought him into the stomach of the whale, unharmed of course. Some riwayat say he spent 40 days in there. Some riwayat say it's 40 years in there. Not important. His reaction to that difficult situation is the lesson for us. And I want you to understand this metaphor. All of you with me, inshallah? The metaphor is this. The mammal by which Nabi Yunus existed in It's not a mammal that swims at the top of the shore. It's a mammal that goes very deep inside the ocean. Once in a while he'll come up and he'll go down, but he resides at the deepest, darkest portion of the ocean. Follow me? So Nabi Yunus, the Prophet of Allah, is now residing in the belly of this mammal, which is the darkest portion of the mammal. The mammal itself resides in the darkest portion of the ocean. Metaphorically, that's a lot of darkness. Metaphorically, he's in complete and utter darkness. Nabi Yunus is. In that darkness, which is rock bottom, where you and I sometimes have been, we scratch rock bottom, we crawl rock bottom. Nothing can kill us except for this. We've gone through so many difficulties and we can't seem to find a solution. At that moment, the ayat says, فَنَادَى فِي ظُلِمَاتٍ. He called out in that darkness. What did he call out? لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. There is no God but you. Glory be to you, Allah. I was the one that did dhulm on myself. I did dhulm on myself. The ayat goes on to say that we heard the prayer of Yunus, we freed the prayer of Yunus, وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِلْ مُؤْمِنِينَ. And we will do the exact same thing with the believers as well. The first thing that we run from when we are stuck with problems and calamities is the deen of Allah. The first thing that's sacrificed is the deen. The first existence we are angry at is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This story that is supposed to save us from ghaflat is saying what? In that darkness, amongst the darkness, don't call out to anybody. Say, La ilaha illa anta. Subhanaka. Just try it. Converse with Allah. I mentioned yesterday, sometimes Allah wants to hear more from us. So He places one problem after one problem after one problem. Because He knows that so long as things are good, we won't say a word to Allah. When things get a little bit difficulty, we'll turn back to Allah. That's how we are. But I mentioned yesterday that it is the concept of relative nature of evil. And I'll tell you a story and then move towards Messiah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala. There's a village, and I told the story in Beit al-Qan, I think. There's a village with two different homes in it. We're talking about the relative nature of problems in life. Sometimes we believe that what I'm going through, nobody else in the history of mankind has gone through it. Nobody else. You become hopeless. You become, completely discouraged. It's relative sometimes. In one home, there is a farmer whose entire income is dependent on his crops. On one home, there's a family who's planning a wedding. Okay. The daughter in that house has become engaged. 1 year from now, she'll have her wedding. She wants an outdoor wedding. And she plans everything to a T. Everything from the caterer, everything from the decorator, everything from the program, everything she has completely and absolutely planned out. She wants an outdoor wedding, right? So she has the flowers book, she has the fondue, the ice sculpture, everything that girls do to plan a wedding, she has everything. Right? She pulls out her wedding book that she's had since she was 6 years old, because she's had her wedding planned since she was 6 years old. What outfit, who will wear what color, everything is all planned. 1 year to the date of this wedding is her wedding day. She wakes up very excited. Everything is in place. She opens the curtain and she sees what? Rain, Asad. She sees rain. Lots of rain. She thinks to herself, I planned everything to a T. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. She planned everything to a T. The one thing she didn't account for was the weather. Pouring rain. Her flowers are dying, her fondue has melted, the ice sculpture now has become a small bunny, everything is dead. She's devastated. Couldn't believe it. She crawls out for her mother. Her mom hugs her, says it's okay, this and that. Life goes on. You know, she has her Daffy Duck slippers. She's curled up in a corner. She's crying. Down the road is who? Yeah. The farmer who's been waiting 6 months for it to rain opens the shade, sees the same rain that she saw. She was crying in a corner. He fell into sajda. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I've been waiting 6 months for this rain to come because I've been high and dry, no source of income. One rainstorm causes 2 different reactions. Problems, hardships, evil is relative, my brothers and my sisters. When you believe it's absolutely on your head, it's a tougher battle to fight. And until we understand that, we won't elevate spiritually. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala. The days of Muharram are ending and Safar begins. And where we hear the name Safar, we begin to think about Bibi Zaynab. I've already taken too much of Moulana's time. I'll be very brief in my masayib. I just want to narrate a conversation that happened between Amir al-Mu'mineen and Bibi Zaynab. When the poison from Ibn al-Muljam's sword had reached the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the doctors have said that Ali, it's only a matter of time now that you'll leave this world. It's time now for you to do nasihat with your children. One by one, he begins to explain to them what his nasihat is, and then he sits down Zaynab. He says, Zaynab, after me, this will happen to you, this will befall on you, this will befall on you, one by one by one. And I want you to promise me that with every calamity, you'll be patient. You are the daughter of Asbar al-Sabirin. She's listening, she's listening, she's listening. And when Ali was done, Bibi Zaynab says, Baba, I'll be very patient in everything that comes my way. But just answer me one question. That if ever during these problems I was to ask you for help, will you come and help me? He says, of course I will. And Mushkil Kusha, of course I'll come and help you. Whenever you ask, I'll come and help you. Let's examine where Bibi Zaynab asked Amir al-Mu'mineen for help. The 28th of Rajab, she left Medina towards Karbala. She didn't ask Ali for help. The 2nd of Muharram, when that old man from the Bani Asad tribe begged Imam Hussain, please do not stay in this place called Karb and Bala. I've seen people have their blood being shed here. I beg you, don't stay here. She at that moment didn't ask Ali for help. When all of Muhammad's body was brought back to the Khaymah and the Khaymah opened and Zaynab came out, she placed one hand on Om's chest and one hand on Muhammad's chest. She went into sajda and said, Ya Allah, accept this Qaleel sacrifice on my behalf. She fell to sajda. She didn't ask Ali for help. When she saw the Barchi of Ali Akbar being pulled out by Imam Hussain, when he asked the small kid of the Bani Hashim that come and help me bring my Jawan lash back to the Khaymah, she's watching this. She never asked Ali for help. When she saw the alam come back from the maqtal but not the alamdar, when she saw Sakina run out to the maqtal and said, Chacha, your Sakina's not thirsty anymore, she didn't call Ali for help. When she's standing there until Zaynabiyah, and the ground began to shake, and the sky became black, and the voice could be heard, قَدْ قَتُلَ حُسَيْنَ بِكَرْبَلَا. She didn't ask Ali for help. When she made her journey towards Kufa and Sham, she didn't ask Ali for help. There came a time, my brothers and my sisters, when she entered the courtyard of Yazid. 7 doors to that courtyard. 1 door open, she went through. 1 door open, she went through. The 7th door opens. There in front of Bibi Zaynab are 700 men lined up to watch this tamasha. She stops at that door. She said, if anybody has the John in them to stop Abbas's sister, stop me. I am not going to enter this courtyard. And she stops right there. And Imam Sajjad says, Pupiyama, please, a little bit of patience, come with me. She says, no, I'm not going to enter this courtyard. From the Nokin-Neza, Imam Hussain begins to converse with Bibi Zaynab and says, Behna, I'm with you. Let's enter the courtyard. It's at that moment that Bibi Zaynab says, Hussain, Bhaiya, you're asking me? I'll go to the courtyard. Just answer me one question. Which way is it to Najaf? Turns towards Najaf. Says, Baba, your Zaynab is now asking you for help. Assalamu alaikum.